welcome to my channel. My name is Marley and I read a lot. So in today's video, I decided I wanted to do the astrology book tag. I was not tagged by anyone in this, but I'm a big fan of astrology and books, so I've been meaning to do this tag for a while. There is a prompt for you to list a book or a book character or something bookish based on each of the 12 signs of the zodiac. Before we get into the video, I just want to say please subscribe to my channel below if you are not already, as I upload videos Tuesdays and Thursdays every week. But yeah, let's get into the tag. So first up is Aries. Name a book that you've read that was full of fire, desire, and passion. So when I read this question, my mind immediately went to Chain of Gold by Cassandra Clare. First of all, the cover already looks kind of like fiery. I mean, it's leaves, it's not fire, but you know. So I think this book has a lot of fire, desire, and passion, especially the whispering room scene, if you know what I mean. If you read it, lots of kissing going on. But this is the latest installment in the Shadowhunter Chronicles and the first book in the Last Hour series. Basically, we are following Cordelia Carstairs, who is a young Shadowhunter, and she just moves to London, England, to the London Institute, and then we have all the Shadowhunters who already live in London, which include the Herondales, the Fairchilds, the Lightwoods, and with so many different characters, I feel like there's a lot of different desires and passions in this book, as we are seeing the points of view of all of these different characters who all have so much going on, and they're all just so passionate about all of their different hobbies. Like Lucy's really passionate about writing, Cordelia is really passionate about freeing her father, James is very passionate about things as well. And then there are also some romances in here that include a lot of desire and passion as well. It's kind of hard to explain this question fully, but Chain of Gold is a book I would choose for Aries. The next prompt is Taurus. So name a book that was beautifully written. For this prompt, I wanted to say It Ends With Us by Colleen Hoover. This book follows a girl who grew up in an abusive household. Her father was always abusive to her mother, and then when she's an adult, she finds herself in a similar situation with her partner, and it's sort of about having to break the cycle of abuse. And I just thought this book was very beautifully written. If you read the acknowledgements, you'll see that Colleen Hoover based it on her own life and I believe her own parents' marriage. So the fact that it was drawing from true events and real emotions is what I think gave this book so much power, and I just felt like it was very beautifully written. An honorable mention I want to say for this prompt is Aristotle and Dante Discover the Secrets of the Universe. Even that title, like, you can just tell it's going to be a beautiful book. This follows two Mexican-American boys who form a friendship and really beautiful relationship when they are both so lonely and going through their own different things, and you really get to explore their relationship and them coming to terms with their identities and their sexualities and all that sort of stuff that teens have to go through. And this was another book that I read in the last year that I thought just was really, really beautifully written and a very quick read for me. Next we have Gemini. For this sign, it is to name a book that has twins in it. And for this one, I'm going to go with Tweet Cute. I read this one very recently and I absolutely loved it. It is about this girl named Pepper and this guy named Jack. Where the twins comes in is that Jack is a twin. He has a twin brother named Ethan, who is more of like the golden boy twin, and Jack is more of like the one living in his shadow. Their family owns a small deli restaurant that ends up getting in a Twitter war with a larger franchise that Pepper's parents happen to own, and that is kind of what brings the two characters together. This is a YA contemporary that has a enemies to lovers romance and deals a lot with Twitter and social media, and I would highly recommend this if you want a cute little contemporary book and if you like books that have implemented like social media and technology and stuff into their storylines. Now for Cancer, of course the prompt is to name a book that was a real tearjerker. So when looking for a book for this one to say, I actually realized that a lot of books I read recently have not really made me cry, but one that really did invoke a lot of emotion from me and did make me cry was I Want to Eat Your Pancreas by Yoru Samino. And I don't have it with me unfortunately because I borrowed it from a friend when I read it, but it is actually a manga or manga. I'm not sure which way I should be saying it. Maybe I should say manga. But it was the first manga that I ever read and absolutely loved it. Unexpected. It is about these two teens in high school. One of them is super introverted. He basically has no friends, and the other one, the girl, is super outgoing. Everybody loves her. Very much opposites. And then something sort of brings them together, and they start spending time together and developing a relationship, and it's really, really cute to see. It has a lot of funny moments and cute moments. However, it ultimately is a very sad book, which you sort of find out why on the very first page. But this is a book I would definitely recommend if you want to cry, but also if you want like a feel-good book at the same time. Next we have Leo, and for this one you're supposed to name a book that has courageous characters. So many books have courageous characters, but for this one I wanted to shout out the Magnus Chase and the Sons and the Gods of Asgard series. I see a lot of hype for Rick Riordan, obviously, especially for his Percy Jackson series, but I feel like not as many people talk about the Magnus Chase series, which is one of his more recent ones, and I just absolutely adored this series, and I really want to encourage everyone to pick it up. As with all of Rick's books, the characters are extremely courageous as they are constantly going on quests and dealing with life-threatening challenges and having to fight monsters and things like that. Magnus Chase, of course, is a super courageous character, and then I'm forgetting what the other names of the characters are, but there are other courageous characters in here too. And I found this cast of characters to be extremely diverse, where there's characters with different religions, different disabilities, and also different gender identities, which I think makes it a really unique Rick Riordan book series. So for Virgo, the prompt is to name a book that is pure perfection. So let's reach back here again and grab A Good Girl's Guide to Murder by Holly Jackson. This was one of my favorite books of 2020. It was so amazing. The reason that I think it's perfect is because it has all of the elements that I like in a book, and maybe you do too. So basically it's about Pip, and she's a senior in high school, and for her senior project she takes on the challenge of trying to solve a murder that was never 100% solved. They sort of blamed someone who Pip does not think actually did the murder. So she is trying to solve it, and it has that classic murder mystery formula of Pip just trying to figure out the murder, going through her list of suspects, maybe getting herself in a little bit of trouble along the way. The reason I think this is perfect is because the mystery is great. I did end up guessing certain elements of it, but not the whole thing, so I think you'll definitely still be surprised by it and thrilled by it throughout. It also has a really likable main character in Pip, and there also is a romantic element in here as well, which I did not expect to like at first, but I actually grew to really, really adore the romance in this book too. It's not too heavy on romance, it's just like a little bit, so that's why I feel like this is the perfect book, because it has all of those elements in it. And yeah, just would really recommend this. Now for my own sign, which is Libra, you have to name a book that was neither good nor bad, even though we know Libras are good. So for this one, the one that I thought of was The June Boys by Court Stevens. I read this last year, and I think it was the first thriller-esque book I ever read. So at the time, I really, really enjoyed it because it was introducing me to this genre. But now that I look back, I realize compared to all the other thriller books I've read, it's actually not the best. So that's why I think it's neither good nor bad. But what it's about is this town where every year in June, a group of boys goes missing. I forget how many now, but a group of them goes missing, and then the next year they are all released. So it's a mystery of why is this person or these people kidnapping these boys and then releasing them. It's a very strange, obviously normally when people get kidnapped, they also like get murdered or you never see them again. So it's a very weird process, and the main character, I think her cousin ends up getting taken. So that's sort of what introduces her to the mystery, and she is trying to figure out what is going on, and it seems like maybe someone she knows is the one behind it. So I think the premise sounded so good, and I feel like it delivered in certain aspects, but not in others. Like I've mostly heard negative reviews, but I feel sort of averagely about it, so that's why I'm saying it's neither good nor bad. For Scorpio, it is to name a book that is dark and mysterious. I feel like there's so many options for this, but one of the ones I want to mention is The Night Film by Marisha Pessl. I actually only ended up giving this one 3 stars, but I just think it fits this question so well, as it is super dark and super mysterious. So it follows this investigative journalist who has always been investigating and curious about this famous director. He makes a lot of of horror, weird films that have gained him this cult following. And then that director's daughter ends up dying, and people think it's a suicide, but the journalist doesn't think so. He thinks there's something more behind it that maybe has to do with what her father is involved in, potentially cult related things or something like that. This book had a lot of dark moments, as it does, you know, deal with the ideas of maybe there's like cult things or devil worship going on, and it's very mysterious as you're just wondering what's happening through the whole book. That's what I would say for this one. Another honorable mention I want to say is M in the Night by Wendy Walker. This one was also pretty mysterious and ended up being pretty dark as well. We are following these two sisters, but mainly the one sister, but they both go missing when they're teenagers, and then I think it's 3 to 5 years later the one sister turns back up without the other one, and we are trying to figure out where they went for those years that they were missing and why the other sister didn't come back but the one did. Sort of whether we can trust that girl who came back, or maybe she is the guilty one. You know what I mean? So this book was so good. I feel like the mystery really kept you captivated the whole time, and it had very like twisty things happening at the end. So that's what I'd recommend for Scorpio. Next up is Sagittarius. Name a book you've read that is full of adventure. And I feel like I've mentioned this series a couple of times on my channel, a little bit repetitive, but that is the Inkheart trilogy by Cornelia Funk, I think it is. These are older books now, but I still just always think about them when I hear prompts asking for like adventure magical books. Basically, it's about this girl and her father, and they have the power that when they read out loud, things come out of the books. Like it kind of works vice versa, where when things come out, things also go into the books. When the main character Maggie was young, her father had been reading out loud, and a couple of characters had come out of the book called Inkheart, and one of them was this villain who is wreaking havoc in our world now, and in replacement of that, Maggie's mother had actually gone into the book. A lot of stuff happens from there, but if you don't really care about like reading newer releases and you want more of like an older book to work on, I would suggest the Inkheart series. I just really enjoyed that series. I need to reread it. Now for Capricorn, we have the prompt, name a book that really made you think. So for this, I want to mention Dan Brown books, specifically Origin, which is a book that I just recently finished, but his whole Robert Langdon series backlist is all really good and makes you think. That includes Angels and Demons, The Da Vinci Code, Inferno, and The Lost Symbol. These books all follow Robert Langdon, who is a symbologist and a professor at Harvard, and in each book he gets caught up in some sort of crazy mystery where he's running around some city being chased by the bad guys, and he's trying to figure out this mystery. And I feel like these books really make you think because it talks so much about symbology, as that's what Robert Langdon's profession is, and art and history and architecture. So when you're reading it, you really have to pay attention, you really have to be thinking, and then also with the mystery, you're also trying to think and find out what is going on, as Robert does. I want to have an honorable mention for this too and say I'm thinking of Ending Things by Ian Reid, which I'm sure everyone knows about, but when I read this book, I was constantly thinking and constantly theorizing about what was going on, as the narration is very odd in this book. It's very like stream of consciousness, very weird. It's hard to know what exactly is going on in this book, so I just want to throw that out there as well. And it's very short if you want to just quickly read this in literally a day. Now we are down to Aquarius, and this one says to name a book that was very quirky. So a recent quirky read that I read was The Rosie Project by Graham Simpson. I read this for when I was reading books about characters with red hair. So we are following our main character. I believe he's like a middle-aged man. I think he's a professor as well, actually, and he actually is on the spectrum, so he has some trouble interacting with others, especially women that he's dating. So he ends up taking on this sort of dating project and gets introduced to Rosie, who is very different from him. He's very like organized and likes his routine, and Rosie is very out there, you know, flying by the seat of her pants kind of person, but they end up working together to try and find out who Rosie's father is, because she doesn't know, and our main character is a geneticist. That's right, now I remember. So he's trying to help her find her father, and in the meantime they are forming, you know, a bit of a relationship, and it's quite cute. And I just found this book to be rather quirky and just have those quirky vibes, you know? And for our final sign, we have Pisces, which is to name a book that was very imaginative, as Pisces are known to have big imaginations, of course. I found it very hard to pick just one book for this because I feel like so many authors are so imaginative with their stories when they write, but the main one I want to mention is Scythe by Neil Shusterman. This is a very popular dystopian series, and the reason it's so popular is because it is amazing. I haven't talked that much about it on my channel because I think I completed the series right before I started my booktube channel, but it was one of the series that got me really back into reading again in the last year. It is about this, I guess, utopian world where like everything seems like it's perfect. Death is no longer a thing. Humans don't die by natural causes. They just can live on and on and on. So that's why there are these people who are called scythes, and it is their job and their life's dedicated to killing people, and that's the only way that people die. And it's this very like random system, or it's supposed to be, where they have like a quota of people that they're supposed to kill within like the month. Super imaginative of Neil Shusterman to create this whole world. It was really enjoyable reading the entire trilogy as he just added more and more to the world each book, and I just found it so interesting and so unique. So I think that's gonna do it for the astrology book tag. I really love doing this as I love associating astrological things with other things, and I love books. So please leave me a comment or a like. Let me know of any books that you think fit any of these prompts, or let me know what your astrological sign is. I would love to know. I am a Libra, as I already said. And yeah, thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you in my next video, of course. Bye!